we wish to make an MVC program, ASP.NET Core, which we'll call the Core Web Demo, and if we want to make put a new author into our database, then we can just do that, and then submit the author. And if we want to put here, so you can see that JLo has been placed in the list of new authors, and if I want to make a not a new author, you want to make place a book in that. So in order to do that, we could type in our URL, and by the way, we could have typed in the URL author create, and that would also have given us a new author. But I think if we want to create a book, there we go. So it's book create is the segment on the end of that URL. Now you'll notice that another feature of this MVC is that it's got a drop down, and so we can actually choose any of those authors, and then we could then enter in the new book and submit that. Now we ought to be able to, and then it gives us a summary of them. You can see JLo has got a new book called J's Book. So we might want to have a look at the how that's been placed in the database. So let's take a look at the database and see if we can find that record. To do that, we can go to View, and then so we can go to our Server Object Explorer and take a look at the databases. Oh, I've forgotten which one it is. Well, how can I find out? Well, if I go to the context and take a look in there, then you'll see my connection string. Oh, there it is. So that's the name of my database. Thank you. So if I therefore go to that database, there it is, and I can go to the tables, and I should be able to see my table, which is the authors and the book. So let's take a look at the authors, and then we can take a look at the data, and indeed you can see JLo, quite unforgettable, has been placed at the end. And if you look at the book, you might be able to see that the book that she's written. So if we take a look at the data there you are. She's well, that's the authors. Sorry, I need to go to the books. There we are, and go to the view the data, and there you are. See, there you can see her famous book. So let's go ahead and make an MVC Core app, web app. If we take a look, basically what we've got here is the models, which is the author, as you can see, with their private with their fields, and also a book. Also, then we've got three controllers we're going to take a look at, and of course we've got our context as well. So first of all, we'll just make I'll close this project I've got running and make a brand new one. So close that solution, and we'll make a new project, an MVC project. So I will create a new project, and I'll call it and I think I'll just place that into a different folder, otherwise I'll get a conflict. So let me just go to a different folder, which hasn't been created at the moment. So, and I can just make that MVC and give that a bit of time to be created. Well, we have to say what we're doing in MVC and then create, and we haven't got any models at the moment except for the error, and we've got a home controller as well, and that's all we have. So we will therefore add some, but why don't we just run it for the moment, just to make sure it's the MVC standard project is working. And indeed, well, we've got privacy, which we don't seem to use very much, but if we've got the privacy, we've also, this will just take us back to our index page, and that's our standard MVC. Now we could add some models, for example. So in our models folder, we could add a new class here. We can add 3 classes actually, but for the moment we'll add a class and we'll call this one author. And then we can add another one called book. And then we can add our DB context. Actually, I might just capitalize those files. Well, it could be a bit tricky now, so what I'll do, I think I'll delete those and just make them again, which I've quickly done. So now I'll just take a look at the author and paste this code in on top, just as well we called it the same name, and that should be okay. I've got that twice for some reason. Okay, so that's the author code. Now it's complaining about the book here, so let's see if we can fix that by adding the book code. And we can see that error has gone from there. So we need to now look at our DB context and put some code in for that. So don't forget, this is what really connects us to our database. We've got here the context, of course, and look where we're making an EF core demo. I think I might have a database by that name already, so it'd be simply a matter of changing that. And we've got our SQL Server connection as well. Well, we seem to still have errors with our DB context file, so let's see if we run our migrations, that might alleviate that. So the usual stuff, we go to our tools in the NuGet package manager, and we look for our SQL, for example. That's the one we're looking for, so we can make sure we include that and then simply install it. And we can also look for the tools. Here we go, so we can install that as well. So we've got both of those installed, and then that should allow us to do our migrations as long as that's completed, accept the conditions and so on. Before we do our migrations, I find it's quite useful actually if you just start the app going, and then it seems to be working, so there's no errors in the code is what I'm trying to say. So now we can run our migrations. So the standard stuff, if we go to our tools and NuGet package manager, and then we do the console, and then we can add our migration. So if we type in here, add migration, test1, and just try that, and so it looks like we've succeeded, which is good. And then we can, after that, we can update database. Well, let me take a look. I'm looking for my database, but I don't seem to see it. Core Web Demo, but it was Core Web Demo 1, if you recall, so we have an error somewhere. Well, my author looks all right, my book looks all right. What about the demo context? Well, now what's this? We've got server equals this. Now, I think that relates to using VS Code rather than Visual Studio. It's the database. Now, what we need to do is to change that to our SQL database by using this string. So let me just replace that. I see my code is still running, so I better stop it and then change the server to the SQL server. And yeah, let's see if that helps. So let me run my migration. Since we're changing the details of the database, I've used the up arrow key to get those, and then I'll just change it to a different, and then now if I update the database by update database, which we just missed on the video, I'm afraid, so that should be done. Let me try to refresh and take a look. And there it is, there's our database. So we could take a look at the tables if you like. And there should be nothing in them. Blank tables, books and authors. So you could physically add some data there if you want just something to do. But for the moment, that's constructing our database. The next video we will add some forms to do a post and post some data into the tables.